Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Dr. Houman Hemmati, who serves on the board of directors of Saving California. Dr. Hemmati, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
We saw multiple wildfires absolutely ravage the Los Angeles area over the past couple of weeks, burning tens of thousands of acres, destroying thousands of homes. And according to AccuWeather, the damage is estimated to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 billion. You're personally affected by the wildfires and are blaming California lawmakers, including Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass. So talk to us about the landscape in California right now and where you're putting this blame.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. It's a tragedy, and there's no way to describe it other than that. This is really catastrophic. It's something that should never have happened. It's something that's impacted not just literally hundreds of my very good friends, people I know literally blocks away from me, but tens of thousands of people who I don't know and will never know. And there's no way we're going to dig out of this for decades. I was impacted only by having to evacuate. This came up to blocks away from my home, our home filled with smoke, but we still have a home. I'm thinking of all the people who don't, and it's an absolute tragedy. I predicted this would happen, and I've been screaming on social media and by email to the governor's office and to local authorities for about 18 months now, begging them to do something to prevent and then be ready to immediately attack wildfires as soon as they occur. Why? The insurance companies who departed California, and especially departed Pacific Palisades and Malibu around the last few months, were the canary in the coal mine. The insurance companies are there to make money. They were smart. They used satellite data, on-the-ground data, weather data, etc., to measure moisture levels in vegetation, the amount of vegetation that can be fuel for a wildfire, proximity of vegetation to populated areas, amount of water in reservoirs, firefighting resources, etc. The fact that they began to depart in mass signifies that they knew, based on their actuarial data and their on-the-ground analysis, that we are in trouble. We will not be able to prevent a wildfire, that it is inevitable, and that it's going to cause mass devastation. And guess what happened? They were right. So if insurance companies knew, how did the politicians not know? They didn't do prescribed burns like they used to do back in the 80s and 90s due to fear of causing climate change. Guess what? They caused a lot more climate change by allowing these wildfires to burn. About 7.5% of total California emissions in the last 12 months are now attributable to wildfire CO2 emissions. That's the number 4 cause. On top of that, they were unprepared with water. The reservoir was dry. They were unprepared with adequate firefighting resources. We had hundreds of LA Fire Department trucks that were in a maintenance yard with no maintenance being done. This is absolute lunacy. This is a policy failure. It is a human failure, and it is something that unfortunately was predictable and preventable. Yes, the winds were severe. However, we could have been prepared even if a wildfire had started to attack that as soon as it began so that it wouldn't spread and cause such widespread damage. And so when I do place blame on the politicians, especially Mayor Bass, especially Governor Newsom, and so many others on the Los Angeles City Council and the California State Legislature, their priorities have all been off. They've been spending tens of billions of dollars on homelessness, climate change, illegal immigrants, etc., without doing one thing to proactively stay ahead of this problem.
The footage coming out of the LA area is really apocalyptic. You're saying, you know what? Yeah, the winds were bad. Yeah, this was a historic wildfire, but we could have been better prepared. And you said when you saw the insurance companies leaving California, you're like, hey, that doesn't pass the smell test here. Something's not right. Something is going to happen. You're emailing lawmakers in California. For those 18 months, did you get a response from anyone?
Nothing. No one wanted to deal with this issue. That's the problem. They were all so laser focused on this obsession that use of fossil fuels is going to destroy our planet that they forgot that we have an imminent risk of wildfires that will destroy our city in a matter of hours or days. And that obsession and that refusal to look beyond that and think of imminent risks rather than long-term risks, which may be real, caused them to ignore something that was looking us right in the face, and something that, again, insurance companies saw was very real right now.
when you are in the face and in the midst of a tragedy on the scale of this, there are oftentimes many calls, hey, don't make this political just yet, let us get through this. It feels a little different this time. Celebrities whose houses have burnt down, who live in the area, have been en masse saying we need different leadership. They've been ripping Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass. You sit on the board of directors of Saving California, which has launched an effort to recall Governor Newsom. So can you talk to us about Saving California and that effort?
Absolutely. Saving California is an effort that began months before the wildfires. I want to be clear, this did not pop up during the wildfires. This is something that we had been working on. Our website was already created and up. We just hadn't officially launched. A group of us had seen how upset Californians are now, today, about how Governor Newsom is operating. In the past, there was another recall. What got that recall to be fueled? It was the fact mostly that the governor had a dinner during the COVID lockdowns when we were all being masked at a very expensive restaurant with very fancy lobbyists and didn't seem to care about the regular people. Fine, that upset a lot of people. It upset me. How many people did it directly impact? None. No one was personally hurt by it other than maybe emotionally, right? He did other things, excessive lockdowns, etc., that did hurt people. But that one action was the thing that got people over the edge. In this case, what do we have? Within a matter of a few months, he's proactively caused gasoline prices to skyrocket. He's caused utility electric prices to skyrocket. He's caused insurance prices to go through the roof. And then these wildfires are what really pushed everyone, including us on the recall team in Saving California, over the edge. This was what got us to realize that we can't take our time with this. He's only got a couple years left in office, and if we can shave 1.5 years off of that time in office, we have 1.5 years of additional time to have new and different leadership to lead our state far more responsibly, far more competently, and far more compassionately.
I want to talk about Newsom's office's response and get your reaction to that. A spokesperson for the governor said this, quote, "The same group of far-right activists have launched 6 different recall attempts against the governor since he's taken office, each of which have failed spectacularly. Past recall efforts against Governor Newsom, as you noted, have failed. So what makes this one different this time around?"
Yeah, first I want to address this assertion of far-right and same group. I was never involved. Most of the people who are involved today weren't involved in any past recall attempts. We are people who've risen up. I'm not a politician. I'm not a political activist. I was never affiliated with any group before. I was in the media speaking out as an ordinary person. I'm certainly, by the way, not a candidate either or a member of any party apparatus. Neither are any of the other people involved. And this is a non-partisan effort. I don't even want to say bipartisan because there is no partisan nature to this. I have no idea what the political affiliations of the other folks are who are involved or who are supporting us en masse, because this is a widespread effort. He tried to call Prop 36, which passed by nearly 70% of the California population, also far right. This term MAGA, far right, etc., is being used as a distraction from reality, which is that the majority of Californians are fed up with our leadership, especially in the light of the wildfires and especially in the light of Newsom's very arrogant, uncompassionate response to this, trying to politicize it and trying to deflect blame to anyone but himself. When we talk about how we all got together, these are people who realized that if we don't do it, who will? And so I think really what fueled us was the need to understand that there is an imminent crisis of leadership and that we have an opportunity on a non-partisan level to finally address that by getting together.
And if this is a nonpartisan effort, who would you like to see replace Governor Newsom? Because realistically, California is a pretty blue state. Would a Republican make the cut? Would a Republican even get the votes? Or would you want a more moderate Democrat? Or just, hey, it doesn't even matter who you are, just not Governor Newsom?
That's up to the people, right? The people have the opportunity in a recall to choose. Remember, the recall committee, the people organizing it by law and also by any common sense, should not be the ones to pick a successor. That is up to the people. It is. We trust the people. The Constitution of the state trusts the people to say, you know what? We're fed up with this guy We know what we do want now, and why don't we pick someone? And so I trust the process, we trust the process, and even legally, we're not supposed to align ourselves with a particular candidate or even have a favorite or anyone we coordinate with, and we're going to stick to that. We're going to allow that to happen. It does not have to be a Republican, doesn't have to be a Democrat. This just needs to be someone who is moderate politically, who has compassion, who wants to put public safety, which means wildfires and crime and all associated issues, above all other state priorities. And Governor Newsom himself actually said in a tweet attacking me this week that he has other priorities beyond the wildfire, namely going after Trump, spending $50 million of taxpayer money we don't have to, quote, Trump-proof the state before he even takes office. That right there illustrates how tone-deaf the governor is and how out of touch he is and how, again, obsessed he is with another priority while his state burns. When your own house is burning down, I don't think you have any other priorities. And when you're the governor and your own state is burning down, how on earth can you have any other priority?
When you're looking at other leaders who are involved in this mess, obviously, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass comes to mind. She's been roasted for being in Ghana while these fires broke out, for coming back. There have been, the fire chief has had some tough words about her leadership. Is Saving California going to recall her next?
You know, that would be a separate effort if it happens at all. We're focused on Governor Newsom. One thing to keep in mind with municipal recall in Los Angeles against the mayor is that the city council not too long ago passed what I refer to as a poison pill in order to prevent a recall from even being initiated. What do I mean by that? In a gubernatorial recall, by law, the people will select who replaces the governor. In fact, there are two questions on the ballot. One, yes or no, do you want to recall the governor? Question two is, if the majority vote yes to recalling the governor, who would you like to replace that person? On a mayoral recall in Los Angeles, question two does not exist. Who picks that replacement? It's the LA City Council. The LA City Council is universally, basically 100% aligned with Mayor Bass. They are, in fact, pretty much worse than she is on many aspects. They're far left of her, even, many of them, on the political spectrum. And in fact, they have zero common sense when it comes to public safety and other matters related to crime and homelessness, plus wildfires. A lot of us are very concerned that if she's recalled, someone even worse, or at the least equivalent, is going to be put in place. And that's going to be problematic. So we have to figure that part out. That part, I think, is going to be left to other people. Our hands are pretty much full now just with the gubernatorial effort alone.
When you look at images and videos and hear stories coming out of California right now, I mean, it's just absolutely heartbreaking. It's tragedy after tragedy. People have lost their homes. They can't afford to rent anywhere in the area that they were in. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. So when you're thinking about the questions that you have for how did this happen, your questions about the response, what are your biggest questions, and how fast or when do you think you're going to see some answers?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of questions here. The biggest being, how did the state and local government not have the same data and the same ideas that the insurance companies had? And how did they not even notice that there was a problem when insurance companies started to flee? I want to see their emails. I want to see minutes of meetings. I want to actually have to force individuals to go and testify under oath to talk about that. I also want to know that what was going on their minds when they made proactive decisions to prioritize other things beside prevention and management of inevitable wildfires. We know there's literature going back hundreds of years that wildfires are a regular occurrence in California. The largest Native American tribe in the Los Angeles, Southern California area, the Gabrielino Tongva Indian tribe, they actually used to refer to LA as the Valley of Smoke and Fire or something to that effect. Why? Because this is a known occurrence. We had in 1993 an old Topanga fire that took out much of Malibu. There are many empty lots still remaining with chimneys in place for sale, unbuilt, because people are afraid to build there again, or it's too expensive to do so. I'm afraid that we're going to be left with wide swaths of land that is not rebuilt ever again, or when it is rebuilt, is going to change the landscape of a place that we love and know as home.
It's clear you're beyond frustrated with California's leadership, especially Governor Gavin Newsom. So, in the immediate future, what is next for saving California? What are the next moves?
I'm glad you asked, and a lot of us are frustrated. I think we're speaking for the people, not just for ourselves as an immediate group of people organizing this on behalf of everyone else. You know, there are a lot of legally required steps to get a recall initiated, and we know what those are. That is public information. We have to obviously create a document that goes to the state. We have to create, we have to get a certain number of valid signatures initially. We have to serve the governor, and then beyond that, we have to create a validated recall petition, have a minimum number of signatures, again, validated on there of state residents to move forward, and have a special election called for a recall. We are nowhere remotely close to a midterm election, so by all measures, it looks like this would trigger a special election dedicated to a recall on this. And we're confident that this time it will actually be very, very successful because of just how much things have changed in the last several months, let alone 2 years or so, and the level of frustration among people, how the Newsom's policies have personally impacted them in numerous ways, is now impossible for anyone to ignore.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look out for. And Dr. Hemmati, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you and your family continue to stay safe, and you're welcome back anytime. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.